As the Biden administration grapples with a record increase in unaccompanied migrant children crossing the U.S. Mexico border, we're learning more about the stories of those families that were torn apart. Teenage sisters Brenda and Rosa traveled nearly 2,000 miles from their hometown in Honduras to their new home in New Jersey. They recounted the loneliness and fear they felt while they were in Border Patrol custody.
I felt really lonely. I felt the need to call someone, to ask for my mom, to see how she was doing. But they didn't give us any phone calls.
The sisters also told CBS News what it was like when they were finally reunited with their father, who they had not seen in years.
It was something very beautiful. I felt my heart was coming out of my chest because of the happiness.
CBS News immigration reporter Camilo Montoya-Galvez has been following their story. Camilo, thanks for joining us. Just talk to us about Brenda and Rosa's story. How did the girls eventually arrive in the U.S. alone? Did they start their journey out on their own?
Hi, Anne-Marie. Good morning. Brenda and Rosa are two of more than 45,000 unaccompanied migrant children who have entered U.S. border custody in the past 3 months as part of this record-setting influx of lone minors journeying to the U.S. Mexico border. However, the two sisters from Honduras, as you alluded to, did not come to the U.S. Mexico border alone. They left their hometown in central Honduras alongside their mother after their farms were destroyed by two back-to-back hurricanes. These farms were the family's livelihood, so they journeyed north with their mother after that happened. However, when the family reached the U.S. Mexico border, Anne-Marie, the families faced a series of difficult choices. They could cross together as a family, but they knew they could be expelled by border officials under this Trump-era public health order known as Title 42 that the Biden administration continues to implement. They could also try to remain in Mexico and wait there indefinitely, but some of these areas in northern Mexico, Anne-Marie, as you know, are very dangerous and have high levels of crime and insecurity, and so the family did not want to take that risk. And the third option was for the mother to send Brenda and Rosa alone as unaccompanied minors so they could be processed and allowed to start an immigration case in the U.S. The family took the latter option after some deliberations, Anne-Marie, and Rosa and Brenda journeyed to the U.S. Mexico border and crossed the border alone. They were processed. They were detained by Border Patrol for weeks because at that time there were many minors coming to the U.S. Mexico border, and the U.S. did not have enough bed space for them, and so they were crowded with a bunch of other children in a Border Patrol station in South Texas. But they finally reunited at a shelter overseen by HHS in South Texas, and now they are finally with their father in New Jersey. So the family really was pushed to come here to the U.S. Mexico border because they wanted to reunite with their father here in the U.S., but also because of the devastation caused by these two major hurricanes.
What a heartbreaking choice for a mother to have to make. I know that you spoke to the two girls about that decision, about being separated from their mother. What did they tell you about their own emotions, their fears for themselves and their mom? What did they say about that when they finally decided, okay, we have 3 bad choices, so we're going to take this one?
Yeah, it was quite remarkable, Anne-Marie. The two girls, although they noted that they were really scared and frankly terrified of being separated from their mother because they had never been far away from their mother since they were born, did mention that they knew that it was the best option to take at the time from their perspective because they wanted to reunite with their father and because they knew that U.S. policy was unlikely to change in terms of allowing families to start an asylum or another immigration case here in the U.S. So the girls, while scared, did know and did feel that this was the best option for them. But nevertheless, Brenda, for example, was held in Border Patrol custody for weeks on end and said that her time there was not the best because the facility was severely overcrowded where she was held, and she was not allowed to call her family. The lawyer who connected me with the sisters actually interviewed Brenda while she was in Border Patrol custody, and remember Brenda being severely distressed and crying during the interview because she had not been able to talk to her family for quite some time. However, again, as we mentioned now, the family is now reunited. But again, it was a bittersweet reunification between the sisters and the father in New Jersey because the mom was still in Mexico at that time, alone.
So when you say the family still is reunited now, the girls are with their dad. Is their mom? Where's their mom right now? Do we know?
Yeah, the mother actually just was able to enter the U.S. Through the U.S. Mexico border alone. So now the family is completely reunited, but for some time, the girls were alone with dad here in New Jersey. And it's important to note, Anne-Marie, that the family's separation at the U.S. Mexico border is not an anomaly. We've seen through record requests that between President Biden's inauguration in January and early April, 2,100 cases of unaccompanied children entering the U.S. Mexico border after previously being expelled to Mexico with their family under this Title 42 policy. So that suggests that all of these unaccompanied children re-entered the country unaccompanied after having been expelled by Border Patrol officials with their family and having to make that choice, which DHS calls self-separation. And Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas of the Department of Homeland Security has acknowledged that this is an ongoing phenomenon as a result of this Title 42 policy.
Wow. Listen, Camilo, before we let you go, the Biden administration is throwing out plans to house migrant children under the age of 12 at a military base in a Texas desert, Fort Bliss. What are the concerns there? And does the administration have a new plan in place to manage these children? These are the children that they call tender age or something along those lines? These are particularly young children.
Yes. Yes, so for context, Anne-Marie, the Department of Health and Human Services has traditional shelters that are licensed by state authorities to care for unaccompanied children, but they had to open these emergency sites at military installations like Fort Bliss and convention centers and work camps that do not have licenses to care for minors because of the record number of unaccompanied children entering U.S. border custody. So most of the unaccompanied children currently in U.S. border custody are being housed at these emergency sites like the Army base in Fort Bliss in West Texas. However, advocates have been extremely concerned about conditions inside facilities like Fort Bliss. Lawyers who interviewed minors there have said that children there do not have access to clean clothes, they have limited showers, and they have limited access to case managers, which are the officials that help them reunite with family members. And because of that, many of these children are effectively languishing inside this Army base. Some have been held there for as many as 50 days when they're supposed to stay there only for a few weeks until they're reunited with family members. And again, these are white tents filled with up to 900 unaccompanied teenagers at each tent. And so that has also been a problem, the overcrowding inside these facilities. But now we know that after some pushback, the administration is backtracking on plans to house tender age unaccompanied children, which, as you mentioned, are children who are under the age of 12 and who require special services because of their age. However, there are still about 5,000 teenagers at this Army base, Anne-Marie.
Wow. Camilo, thank you so much.